how to quickly make a plaid twill fabric really easily with any custom colors that you like. A twill, if you don't know, is a fabric with a weave that's unbalanced between the warp and weft yarns with an over-under that gives it a sort of horizontal effect, and they're called wales. So a denim is considered a twill when you see these diagonal wales happening in the actual weave of the fabric. So it will end up something like this, and you can drag this right into your swatches and then use it to fill any shape or say technical flat for fashion that you're trying to create. So to begin, I want to create a square. So I'm in my shape tool. I'm going to click once on the artboard and it'll bring up a dialog box. You can enter an exact dimension. I'm going to use 4 by 4 for this. And let's get out of this plaid really quick. So pick any background color that you like. I'm going to go with something a little funkier. Let's go with this sort of digital lavender almost. Alright, here's our 4 by 4. I'm going to go back to my selection tool, drag this into an area where I want to start working. I can activate my shape tool. My rectangle tool is hotkey M. That's my key command for a rectangle. And I'm just going to make some vertical rectangles randomly, about 5 or 6 of them going through this box. I want them to extend past the edges so I can see where they are. I want the width of each to be different from one another. I'm going to do one larger one with another smaller one intersecting it right in the center. And then maybe like a medium. So choose your own combination. So you do want these 2 intersecting rectangles right here. You want them to be perfectly centered with each other, so I'm going to select both of them by clicking on one, holding shift, and clicking on the other. And then going up to my align tools up here in my control panel, I'm going to say horizontally align center. You also have that horizontal or vertical line that would make them centered on the vertical axis, the y-axis. So at this point I want to change the colors. I can see where my rectangles are because they're passing the edge, but now I want to change the colors of these rectangles to some complementary colors or whatever colors you want your plaid to be comprised of. So this big one is a pretty major rectangle or major portion of my print. So this is going to be a strong color. I want this to be my sort of secondary color, but it needs to be something that goes along with it pretty well. It's another key color in addition to this background digital lavender. Maybe we go with something a little more drastic, and who knows how this will turn out, but maybe it'll look nice. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so this is going to be pretty bright, pretty sort of trendy colors going on here. Let's go with a neutral on this one, full on black. That should come to 000 if you have a full on black. Okay. Now let's maybe do a really light lavender. maybe a pink in there. And then I will make this smaller one over here match this really light lavender by getting my eyedropper tool. While this is selected, I'll activate my eyedropper tool and just click on this lavender that I want, and it automatically changes this one to that lavender. Okay, great. Now our colors are selected, and we need to cut the ends off of these longer rectangles to match up perfectly with this background square. So what I'm going to do is select everything right now. I'm going to go up to my Pathfinder panel, and if you don't have this open already, you just go to Windows, Pathfinder, click on it, and we'll open right up. With everything selected, I can now select Divide under Pathfinders, and this is telling the program to cut anything apart where it is intersecting with each other. So when I press this, I need to now right click while everything is still selected, right click and ungroup it. And when I do that, it ungroups these tiny little sections that it was intersecting with the background color, and I can just delete them. So while they're all selected, hit your backspace or delete button, and you have a perfect square with those colors inside. Another thing to note right now that I didn't say before, it's very important that you don't have any stroke on this outer edge of your background color. So make sure at this point that you don't have any stroke happening on this shape. So if you do, you might need to back up a couple steps. I should have said that before, but it's important for the repeat that you don't have that outline, because it will show up in your repeat on the outer edge of every tile if you don't get rid of that outline. Okay, so now I want to make one copy of this. So I'm going to select everything here. I'm going to right click, group, so they act as one item that unites everything. So I can now hold Alt or Option and drag off to make an extra one of those, extra copy. I'm going to get rid of these really quickly. And that's the same operation or function as just copying and pasting. So I could have selected all of that and just hit Command C, Command V, and it would have done the same thing. The easy way to do that, the way that I just used, is holding Alt or Option while you click and drag off. So that is the easy way to copy things in Illustrator. This is going to be our base layer. We need to keep this over here for a second while we work on this one. I'm going to select everything on this again by just marquee selecting with my selection tool, and I want to rotate this. So I'm going to right click, go to transform, rotate, and choose 90 degrees. I have preview selected, so it should be showing me what this is, but I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it has switched my stripes to a horizontal orientation now. Now we need to manipulate this square, so when we place it over top of this one, it gives us the visual effect of whales in the fabric. And how we're going to do that is by deleting a portion, the tiny little slices, if you will, through this top layer. So we're going to use that same divide on the Pathfinders panel to do this. And what we need to do, this can get a little bit cumbersome. These steps are a little tedious, so sometimes it helps if you write them down. But I'm going to get my rectangle tool again, that's hotkey M. I'm going to make a really long, skinny rectangle with a really small width, or height actually. You do not want this to be too small, but also not too big. The smaller you get, about like this, the more realistic it will be, it will look. So the reason why it's so long right here is because we're going to go at a diagonal to meet the corner on your lower left to your upper right, so we need it long enough to extend past those catty corners. This, if you're wondering, because we used a 4x4 dimension square for this tutorial, if I have my small skinny rectangle down here selected, I can go to transform and see my width and height, and this is about 9.4 inches by 0.05 inches height. That's how high this is, 0.058 inches. I'm going to go back to my selection tool, so hotkey V, and I want to change this color to something vibrant and very distinctive from the rest of these colors. I need it to be different than every single color on here. So I'm going to double click my color picker, and let's go with a actually red would be good here. Okay, so this needs to be at a diagonal on here. So while this is selected, I'm going to right click and say transform, rotate, and this time we need 45 degrees to be at that angle, that diagonal angle. I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to drag this over to the very top corner. This is the center of my rectangle where you see these anchor points. And I want those anchor points to line up perfectly with the top left corner over here. So I'm going to try to get there pretty good manually. I can see that I have that little word that pops up. It says intersect when you get close to it or on it, right? Now that should be right on top of the corner that I want, but to make sure, I'm going to go into my preview, which is Command Y, or my outline view, I should say. You can also do that by going up here to view, so outline and preview, Command Y, and I can see that that corner is pretty, well, it's not exactly, but I can just change that location really quickly to go right on that corner, and that's what I want, that center with the corner of the top left corner. Now I need another one of these, so I'm going to do the same trick while it's in outline still. You can go back to preview if you want, but you're going to have to go back to outline again to make sure it's on the bottom right corner. So I'm going to do the Alt and drag off trick to copy it. So I'm holding Alt or Option with my selection tool. I'm just going to click on it and drag off. I can hold Shift now at the same time to lock it into this 45-degree angle. And I'm trying to get it right on that bottom right corner. So I'm going to zoom in to make sure it's exactly where I want it. Yep, that looks good. So I can go back to my regular view, Command Y, or preview. Now we have both corners with our diagonal rectangles. And what I want to do is use the blend tool to create many of these. I'm going to select both of these, holding Shift, select the other one, go up to Object and Blend, go to Blend Options, and choose your specified steps. So with your specified steps and your blend options, this box shows up. It asks you what you want it to do, basically. You're setting your options right now, so when you hit OK, it's not going to do anything for you. You have to go back and choose Make. But right now, I'm not sure why I'm not getting the ability to preview it. That's grayed out, that's ghosted, so we're just going to have to test it out for a second. I'm going to try 31 as my specified steps, meaning that it's adding 31 of these skinny rectangles in between these two original rectangles. And the key here, it's very, very important that you do an odd number, because that means you'll have a rectangle passing through exactly the center corners, the furthest two corners. And that's important for your repeat. If you don't do that, you won't have it line up nicely. So go with an odd number, and when I hit OK, I'm still going to have to go up to Object, Blend, and Make. And this is too far away from each other. You want an equal distance of the distance between each other of the width of your rectangle. So you want an even positive and negative. So let's go back to, I'm going to Command Z. Let's go back to Object, Blend, Blend Options. Let's go with 37, let's say. That might be too many, but let's check it out. I'm going to go to Blend and Make again. Oh, not too many, and I need to do a couple more. So again, Object, Blend, and Options. Let's go to 41. Okay, that's better. Let's go with this. All right, so when you blend, when you use the blend tool, it, by the way, it's over here. You can use this operation by the blend tool or by going up to the window, the menu up here. So anytime you use the blend tool, it needs to be expanded. The objects that you created, see how when I hover over it, these two original rectangles, they are selectable, but these other rectangles that were created when we went to make in the blend, these have to be expanded to be able to work with and edit. So now I want to go up to my, I want to select all of this. So when I marquee select just this one, my other original rectangle also is selected. Make sure that both of these are selected, and then you can go up to Object, Expand, and you want both of these checked, so that's fine. I'm just going to press OK. And now all of them light up. So you see all of them are workable and selectable. And at this point I'm going to click off. I can marquee select everything. So I'm making sure that I have my my diagonal rectangles and my background square, and I want to use that same Pathfinder operation we did just a second ago because I want to separate all of these areas, which means I'm cutting apart all of these shapes and sections that are intersecting with my diagonal and my background. So I'm going to click divide. Great. And when I do that, you still need to ungroup everything. I'm going to right click, ungroup, okay. And now I want to click on one of these. You can go individually and select all of these diagonal rectangles, or you can click one of them, go up to select, same, fill and stroke. It's going to select everything with that same fill and stroke. So this is why it's important to choose a color that's different than everything else in that background box. Now, while that's all selected, I just have my diagonal squares selected. I can hit delete, and it's going to remove all of those rectangles. So now we are ready to take this over to the other layer right here. I want to select all of this first and group them together. Alright, and now I can pull this over, right over top of the other layer. And let's zoom in really quickly. I already have this top layer selected. I want to also hold Shift and click this bottom layer. See how I see a little bit of it below? I'm going to hold Shift and click that as well. I'm going to go up to my horizontal align, and I'm also going to click the vertical align right here to make sure it's exactly in line with each other. I'm going to click off here. So that's what our pattern, our plaid, will look like now. To get this into our swatches, we need to select all of it and then just simply drag it into your swatches. You can also do that with this all selected and just hit new swatch, which is down here, this little plus button. It's not available because we already brought it into our swatch panel. You could do the same thing by going to your flyout menu and clicking new swatch. Okay, and this is finished now. We should have a fillable repeat with this original custom plaid that we created. So I can do any shape, and if I drag out a shape, I see that my fill is already red. So I want to just click on my plaid, and there you go. And remember, if you need to scale this, you can go to Transform, Scale, and let's say we want a 50%. You need to remember to uncheck Transform Objects and just transform the pattern. Okay, so when you click off of Transform Objects, this automatically becomes checked, and that's what you want. We have a preview so it can show us what scale we're going to, and then press OK. That's everything to create your custom plaid twill.